good afternoon. Hello everyone. Hello my Namibian friends, or wherever you are joining us live this afternoon, or wherever you are watching this little pre-recorded edition of day 9 of A Healthy Mind, our 14-day challenge. And it's gone so quickly for me, right? We're already on to day 9, and I hope that they have been as helpful as they've been enjoyable for me to create for you and to sit with you and present them to you and connect to you. So we're going to just jump straight in. And as I always like to ask you to do, just take a moment to just be with me and yourself right now, just to ground yourself, right? Just to take a moment to put your feet flat on the ground if you can. If you can't, maybe just feel your body as it sits into the chair, and just to take a moment to feel that groundedness. You know, one of my mentors and teachers, he was telling us yesterday, we're having a chat to him, and he was saying, you know, one of the reasons why we do this is because when we are super stressed, or when we are feeling a little bit of depression or anxiety coming, it's a very sort of floaty kind of thing, right? We feel disconnected from the world around us. And so this is a really nice practice, just to ground ourselves for a moment. So take a moment now quickly and just ground yourself with me. And we do that by, like I say, putting your feet flat on the ground, or just filling your bum into the chair, and then taking a few deep in breaths and a few deep out breaths. And what I want you to try to practice as we do this together is try to follow the breath for its full inhalation and its full exhalation, right? So as it comes into the lungs and as it fills up the lungs, we concentrate. There's a moment where your lungs are nice and full, and then feel it as it flows all the way out. And try to do this for 3 full breaths together as we ground ourselves and we introduce ourselves to the next 30 minutes. So let's do this together. Let's take that first deep inhalation through our nostrils. We can close our eyes, feel grounded. Follow the breath as it moves all the way into the lungs. Feel the lungs filling up and filling up and filling up. And as soon as they hit that point where they're extremely full, I want you to release them very slowly. With as much control as possible, let it flow all the way out, and follow that out breath all the way to the end. And as it gets there, don't be afraid to inhale deeply again. Trying to really follow that breath all the way in. And you can exhale that too. And we're just going to do this one more time. All right. You can open your eyes. And I want to ask you to just thank yourself. Thank yourself for giving yourself this opportunity, for being here today with yourself, and for caring about yourself, for caring for your mental well-being. You know, what is that saying that says if your cup's empty, it's impossible to fill other cups. And so, you know, you've got to look after yourself. If you're going to be and you're going to make a difference in the world, if you're going to look after others, then you got to look after yourself. And so you're doing exactly that. So thank you. From me, thank you. And I want you to thank yourself. Good stuff. All right. So I've got to tell you, I think it's on day 10 or 11. We're going to speak a little bit about those in-breaths and those out-breaths that we just took together, and why they are so effective in calming us down. So not only this feeling of grounding, but they're doing something else. They're playing with our nervous system. So if you are interested in this, if you're interested in why deep breathing helps us so much, then please join us day 10 or day 11. I can't really remember now where we speak about this. And I think we've entitled that day as What Happens in Vegas. And you'll see why. It's really cool. We're not going to do any gambling, but we are going to have some fun with what happens in Vegas. Let's recap quickly this week, right? And specifically from Wednesday, when we started speaking about stress. And why do we do this when we speak about a healthy mind? Why do we do this when we speak about, you know, self-care and mental health and mental wellness? And the reason why we do it is because we're stressed, friends. We're stressed more than any time in modern day history. We have gone through a pandemic. We are going through economic hard times. You know, Africa, as they say, is a tough country, right? It's a tough place to live. We grind through it. We're stressed. We stressed And these numbers, and I don't have to go over it again, we spoke about it on Monday, but these numbers just keep on going up and going up and going up. And so many more people are now turning to very, very strong drugs and chemicals to help them cope with the stress, to help them cope with their everyday life. And so we started on Wednesday talking about this idea of a reframing stress. And why that's important is because we must understand that stress is the body's natural way of dealing with something that's complicated, that's difficult, and that they have to overcome. In and of itself, not a villain. In and of itself, not evil. Unfortunately, a superpower that we can't, however, abuse. Because the more we trigger it, and the more often we trigger it, the more harmful it becomes. So the adrenaline and the cortisol that pumps through our bodies, these are very helpful for very short moments in time. But if they prolong this, and I'm going to use that analogy again, with every superpower comes great responsibility. And so, in other words, you can't abuse it, because the moment we abuse it, which we are currently doing, chronic stress kicks in, and it's almost the very opposite of all of those good things that happen when our body is in that fight or flight stress mode. Right, that chronic stress, very, very bad for us, very bad for us. But I want us to begin to think about stress slightly differently. So it's not the villain. The villain is the long-term effect of it, and the villain is not having the ability to control these chemicals, not having the ability to grow parts of the brain that make the brain fit for purpose in 2021, and that help us and our minds cope with the everyday stresses. So that's what we've been trying to do over the last 2 days. We started with this idea of oxytocin. Oxytocin is this natural chemical, this natural hormone that we find in our body. I don't know if it's a chemical. Can I call it a chemical? I'm not a scientist. I know it's a hormone. Okay, let's just stick with that. Okay, oxytocin is a hormone that we create in ourselves, and it's triggered off with that first release of adrenaline, actually, just after that. And the reason why it's released is because our body knows that adrenaline and cortisol in large quantities for long times can be damaging. And so cortisol is like the little blanket that comes and goes, hold on, everything's going to be okay. I'm sort of preventing all the major damage that can happen. The problem with this oxytocin is that it's metabolized very quickly, and it comes and it's gone. And so what we have to do is we have to supply ourselves with endless shots of this oxytocin. So that's why we went to the oxytocin bar. Yeah, Friday afternoon, oxytocin bar time. And what we discovered at the oxytocin bar is one of the best ways to get those shots of oxytocin is through pro-social behavior. Kindness, friends, kindness, doing acts of kindness, caring for other people, being there for other people, charity, listening, compassion, all of those things which our mom and dad and friends and family and church have said it's a good thing. Well, guess what? It is an incredibly good thing for you. Yes, it's good for the world around you, obviously, but it's an incredibly good thing for you. And let me tell you something else. Kindness, not only does it give you these oxytocin shots, it grows the parietal, there we go, it's Friday afternoon, the parietal region of the brain, a very important part of our brain. So not only, again, is kindness helping us with these oxytocin sort of shots, but it's also growing a very important part of the brain. And then what it's doing, take a listen to this. I don't know if you've ever heard of this guy. His name is Mathieu Ricard, and he's a meditator, and he's someone that practices in one of the Eastern philosophies, and they call him the happiest man in the world. And the reason why they did this is what they do when they're trying to measure your happiness. Amongst other things, they measure what they call the gamma rays in your brain, and how many gamma rays, or how much of this you are emitting, I suppose. There's lots of other factors that they measure, but this is one of them. So they pop you in and they scan it and they watch the gamma as it fires off. And then they say, okay, yeah, Grant's got a little bit of gamma. It's not so happy. Johnny's got lots of gamma. Yeah. And so they did this experiment with Mr. Ricard. And it was off the charts with gamma, right? Off the charts. This guy was profoundly happy, something that these scientists had never seen before. And they said, oh my goodness, look at this dude. He's the happiest dude in the world. And they went to him straight after the experiment, said to him, buddy, what were you thinking about? Like, how is this happening? And he was thinking about kindness. He was thinking about loving kindness, about giving kindness away to other people. The practice we did yesterday is the practice he was doing that made him so happy. So if you haven't checked out day 8, go check out day 8. You can even fast forward through the other stuff. You can get through the practice at the end, because that practice makes you happy. I'll never forget, I once heard His Holiness the Dalai Lama say, if you want to be ultimately selfish, take care of others. And I thought, well, I mean, that's interesting. If you want to be ultimately selfish, take care of others. Because he knows what we now know. He knows that taking care of others, oxytocin. He knows taking care of others, gamma rays. He knows taking care of others builds particular parts of our brain. And so he was onto something there. And so yesterday, when we spoke about being kind, what we were really saying is it's really, really good for you. Practice pro-social behavior. But today, we're going to add another hormone. Okay, we're going to add another hormone. Now, this chronic stress that we speak about, ultimately, it also changes all of these other chemicals in the brain, these other hormones in the brain. So it is a chemical, right? And these are the hormones in the brain. And part of the chemicals in the brain that modulate our cognition and our mood, including one called serotonin. Now, serotonin is extremely important for mood regulation and well-being. It's the kind of hormone we really want when we are not feeling well. It's the kind of hormone we really want when we are feeling super stressed, because it helps regulate us. It's really good for us. So it does a few more things. It promotes great sleep. How often when you're stressed can't you sleep? Yeah. It helps regulate your appetite. As we've spoken about, the more stressed you are, the more your stomach doesn't want to work. You have problems with your stomach, with your digestion. And so serotonin helps with that. It promotes learning and it promotes memory, and it helps promote really positive feelings, and it helps you. They say that people with more serotonin want to do more pro-social things. So do you see the loop happening here? Get more serotonin, want to do more pro-social things, get more oxytocin, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Good stuff's happening here. So this serotonin is a fantastic hormone that you really want to get firing when you're not feeling so lekker. So specifically, if you're going into very stressful weeks, so you know at work when you've got that very stressful week, or university when you've got a study week coming along and exams are being written, or you're writing your final exam for whatever it is, and you know you're going to be super stressed. You kind of want to go and get that oxytocin as often as possible, do those acts of kindness, be kind to others, listen to others, be compassionate. And then you want to now, your second tool, you want to get the serotonin pumping as well. So there's some easy ways in which to do that. The first is literally going to have a walk outside in the sun. Okay, you want to get as much sunlight as possible. So easy for us who live in Africa, but if you are watching this, maybe you're European, a little bit more difficult to do. And this is why light therapy works really nicely for Europeans. And part of that light therapy is very much around the serotonin. Now, something interesting about this too is don't look at the sun, but try not wear sunglasses all the time when you're out in the sun, because serotonin is actually best created when you're absorbing sunlight through the eyes. So be careful of the damage on the eyes. So don't stare at the sun or stare at something, but open up the eyes and get sun into the eyes. It's really helpful. The next one is go for a massage. Now, we're going to speak a lot about massage next week, but remember we spoke about touch being something that helps the oxytocin. It also helps the serotonin. So a good massage, go for it. Then some aerobic exercise. That's a little run, a little jog, just like jumping jacks, do your thing, right? Get your heart beating, get your lungs moving. You don't need to do that too much to get the serotonin pumping. It's not like you have to go run the Comrades Marathon or the Windhoek Ultra Marathon. You don't have to do any of those. You can literally go for a 20-minute jog, 20-minute run, a quick cycle, and the serotonin comes up. Then we also have particular types of foods that you can eat to help do this too. So there's a little list, and you can maybe just Google this list and just say foods that help with serotonin, but I'll give you some of them. Soya products like tofu and soy sauce work very nicely. Spinach works very nicely. Seeds and nuts and cheeses work very nicely. Eggs also work very nicely, and some meats do too. So these are called TIFO. Wait, I must get it right. I wrote it down. Tryptophan, Maybe I don't have that correct. Anyway, there's particular types of food that you want to go and Google for serotonin. Go and check them out. They're going to help you, right? They're going to help you with the serotonin. But what we really want to focus on today, which is it's a crazy hack, and I get super excited because I feel like I'm in a scientific experiment of sorts, and I hope you're going to get as excited as I am when you hear this. So here's a really interesting thing about serotonin. Serotonin happens when we are in a happy state. So when we are experiencing something good, a happy moment, serotonin comes in and says, hello, I'm here. I'm being created because of this happy moment. Now, science has said something really interesting to us, that when you ask people to think about those happy moments, they have the same amount of serotonin excreted or introduced into their system as they do when they're actually experiencing the actual happy moment. Isn't that crazy? So the body doesn't know the difference between, yes, I'm having this really happy moment, or yes, I'm thinking about this really happy moment. And what's even more interesting about this is that the stronger the memory, the more you can remember about the particular happy day, the more serotonin you get. So let's think about your wedding. Maybe if you've been married, maybe it was the happiest day of your life. Let's just go with that for a moment. Happiest day of your life. Walking down the aisle, when you were walking down the aisle, or you were standing in the top and you were waiting for your beautiful wife to come down, you were filled with serotonin. And if you can, right now, think about that day again and recall what she was wearing, what she smelled like as she walked, the feeling you had when she came up to the top, standing with you at the altar, and you looked at her for the very first time in her eyes. And as you build that memory up, guess what? The serotonin doesn't know that you're not there, and it's firing all of that up. It's firing serotonin up in massive amounts, way more than any of the nuts and seeds you can ever eat, friends. True story. Lots of serotonin from remembering happy past events. But here's the kicker. Here's the difficult thing. When we're very stressed, or when we're feeling slightly depressed or slightly anxious, science tells us we're not very good at remembering detail of particular things, not just happy memories, but also sad memories. What happens when we are in a particular stress state or in a particular depressed state is we have more what they call generalized memories. So we can recall sort of times and spaces, but it's quite difficult to recall particular things. Now, there is a really good scientific reason for this, and I don't want to get too much into it, but one of the reasons is because memory comes from all parts of the brain. And as we've spoken about, when cortisol and adrenaline comes in, it shuts off parts of the brain that it doesn't think it needs because it's in a stressful situation. So in other words, it doesn't need you to remember the day you got married when a lion is chasing you. It wants to shut down every other part of the brain that doesn't deal with fight or flight, right? Very clever, but not very helpful now when I'm saying to you that one of the ways in which you can help yourself when you're feeling super stressed is to remember happy past events, because it's quite difficult. So what they found, however, is that there are particular types of memories that we can recall regardless. And these they call flash bulb memories. And what they actually are memories that are deeply imprinted in our psyche, deeply imprinted, so that they are quite easy to remember. I'm going to give you a flash bulb memory right now. And, I'm South African, so I could use, for example, the death of Nelson Mandela. If you speak to most South Africans and you say to them, what were you doing on the day that Nelson Mandela died? They'll be able to tell you. They'll literally be able to tell you where they were when they heard it. I was a big fan of Michael Jackson. I can tell you exactly where I was when I heard that Michael Jackson passed away. My mother was this massive fan of Princess Diana, right? Massive fan. And so I still tease her about it, but she will tell me exactly where she was on the day Diana died. She knows what she was doing when she heard the news. Why? Because all of those were strongly related to a particular emotion and a whole bunch of other things that we're going to unpack today. But those are what we call flashbulb memories. So here's the deal. And this is why I said we're like crazy scientists today. Because can you imagine if me and you can find ways to get our happy memories to be flashbulb memories, to get our happy memories to be super profound, to be really intense, to be something that we could genuinely pull out whenever we need it. And so when we are in extremely stressful situations, when we are feeling slightly depressed, when we are feeling slightly anxious, we can sit down, take a moment and remember those flashbulb memories. Let them come up, the ones that we've planted, the happy ones. And as they come up, we trick the body into thinking we are there. And what happens? Massive amounts of serotonin. And now I've got another little nice thing to tell you, is that cortisol also goes down when we think of happy memories. And the more vivid the memories, the less cortisol we begin to create. That's amazing, right? Cortisol was that horrible little thing that if we kept on smashing ourselves with it, we get sicker and sicker. You want to get it, you want to try to lower that, think of something happy. So serotonin and cortisol both being impacted by happy memories, but the kicker is how do we get these flashbulb memories? So come with me quickly. Let's try to do this together. So I want to introduce you to the 9 ways to prolong a memory. I want to introduce you to the 9 ways that you can create these happy moments as moments that you can recall later. And like I said, the stronger the emotion, the better off you are at trying to remember it and helping you with the serotonin. All right. Okay, so here we go. So the first one is it needs to happen when the happy memory is happening. So let me explain what I mean, right? So I went to Europe last week and I tried to implement all of these 9 things so that I could try to treasure these memories that I was making for the first time in 20 months of going overseas, right? So I went to Paris, one of my favorite cities. And I'm going to use an example of one really happy moment to show you what I tried to do to get it to be that sort of that light bulb, flash bulb moment, so that when I am stressed, when I am depressed, when I am anxious, when I'm feeling a particular way, and I need a good memory to help me with the serotonin, to help lower the cortisol, I can bring back that Parisian memory. Okay, so this is what I tried to do. Okay, the first one is you've got to get in touch with your emotions, friends. And let me explain why. Just like I said, the reason why I remember when Michael Jackson died is because I loved him. And I was emotional and I was sad. The reason why you remember when Nelson Mandela passed away is because we as a nation, South Africans, we were sad. My mother, she remembers the day Princess Diana died is because she has a strong emotion attached to that. The stronger the emotion, the easier it is for us to remember it. Our friends in advertising and marketing, they have known this for years. That's why they tell you Coke brings you happiness, brings you joy. That's why BMW is the ultimate driving experience. That's why they bring you a happy meal. They try to associate their product with an emotion so that it has a strong memory. That's what they do. We've got to do the same. So I was going down the Seine River. The sun was going down. The lights on the Eiffel Tower were up. Were on. I was standing next to the person I love. I was on this cruise. The food was incredible. And as the Eiffel Tower does at like the top of the hour, it shines, it shimmers. And we were going under this beautiful bridge. And I want you to imagine just perfect, right? It's just beautiful. And I thought to myself at that moment, this is what I need to cherish. I need to cherish this happy moment. I need to be able to bring this happy moment back. And so as I was looking at the Eiffel Tower, as it's twinkling, as it's going, I feel particular emotions come up. And then it's very important. And boys, I'm speaking to you. Men, I'm speaking to you because we're not really connected with our emotions. And I know I'm being super generalized here, but I'm speaking to all of you. But boys, I'm also speaking to you. Allow your emotions to come, get in touch with them, feel them, get taken away by them. So I cried. It was such a beautiful moment. I turned to my partner and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so beautiful. It was this overwhelming sense of happiness, this overwhelming sense of contentment and gratitude. And I was so grateful to be there. And I was so in love, but it was so beautiful. And I allowed that emotion to be as strong as it needs to be. Let that emotion flow in the happy moments. Don't stop them. Let them flow, because the stronger the emotion, the easier it is for us to prolong that memory. Number 2, Pay attention and engage all of your senses in those happy moments. In other words, you want to remember what it felt like on the skin, what the temperature was, what it smelled like, what did you hear when you were on that boat, what did the food taste like. Try to recall and remember it. Pay attention and engage all of our senses in those happy moments. Don't go to your first concert you're going to go to after 20 months and be on your phone filming it. Put your phone down, pay attention, engage with all of your senses. What do you see? What do you hear? Engage with this. Be there. Be mindful. This is going to help you prolong that memory. The next thing is make as many associations as possible. And this one works really well with the next one, not share the experience, but use sensory cues. What they're speaking about here is, can you, in the moment of the happy memory, find particular associations that you remember that tie to other things? So I'll give you a really simple example. My grandmother smelt of vanilla her whole life. I loved my grandmother a lot. And she smelt of vanilla. And one of the plates, the desserts that they made for us on this little cruise down the Seine River was doused with vanilla. And it had this beautiful vanilla scent. And so I've got these emotions of my grandmother coming and this associations with my grandmother and this beautiful day, and I'm recalling this, and this is helping me mesh all of these memories together that is going to put them deep down into the psyche. The next one is recall and share your experience. Again, tell someone about this experience. So what I did was, as soon as I got off the cruise, I phoned a very good friend of mine. I said, oh my gosh, this was incredible. And I told her the whole story. And I did this actually for myself. I don't know if she was particularly interested, but I did it for myself anyway, because I was reading this, right? And I thought, okay, we got to do this. We got to do this. So recall and share your experiences quickly. The next one, use sensory cues. This is very, again, involved with paying attention and engaging all of those senses. Then there are two, exercise and eat healthily and meditate. Those I'm not going to go in too much today, but both of those do two things. They help grow the brain. Meditation helps grow the prefrontal cortex. Memories sit in all parts of the brain, but it is very helpful to grow the prefrontal cortex. When you exercise, more blood goes to the brain. When you eat healthily, it's easier to remember things. Then finally, two more. Write these memories down. Now, they say it's a difference between filming it and watching it and writing it down. Writing it down gives you your own personal experience. So what I did is, as soon as I got home, I journaled my entire experience on the Seine River. And then just before I went to sleep, I read it one more time and I closed my eyes and I went to sleep. And so what we're trying to do here is we're trying to implant memories deep into our psyche so that we can recall these happy memories when we need to. We're like biohacking, friends. We're getting fancy with this stuff, right? We're getting really good at this mental health stuff, me and you. Because if we can prolong our happy memories, we have the ability to recall them even during stressful times. And if we can recall them even during stressful times, what happens? Two things, right? Serotonin comes. Serotonin helps regulate moods, helps us with wellness, helps us in moments of stress. And number two, cortisol levels, they go down. And that cortisol, good in short spurts, not so good in long spurts. So we're really getting fancy here, me and you, like I said. We're trying to hack this thing together. So take a little screenshot of that, see it, practice it, try to prolong your happy memories. And if there's one thing you remember from our conversation today, it's pay attention when you are happy. Be in the moment when you are happy, because that's going to help you recall these happy moments. So when you need them, they're in a little bag of happy moments and you can pull them out and you can use them. You can pull out these little happy moments, those moments when you were walking down the aisle, those moments when you were on the Seine River, or those moments you went to a concert for the first time in 20 months after COVID, right? And you can recall them, and they're going to help you with those two chemicals that are going to make you feel a bit better through very, very stressful times. I hope this helps. I hope if you're watching this on Friday with me right now, that you try to practice this. If you're watching it next week, that you practice it during the week. Try to be present during your happy moments. Prolong those memories. You're going to need them. Okay, I'll see you again on Monday. Thank you so much. Have a fantastic weekend. If it is Friday, wherever you are. Yeah, Have happy memories. Okay, cool. I'll see you soon. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.